What is happening, everybody? I hope you all are having a happy Friday. This Friday is a happy Friday because if you haven't heard yet, the snow is back. Yep, you heard that correctly. A handful of Colorado ski resorts have reported their first snowfall in the last week. Now, on the subject of snow, there are plenty of ski resorts to ski here in the state of Colorado. Unfortunately, there are just a few I wouldn't recommend. About a month ago, I gave a list of the top 5 best places to ski in Colorado. Now today, I'm going to give the top 5 worst places to ski in Colorado. Once again, like I said in the other video, this isn't my personal least favorite ski resorts. This is a list of resorts based on what I experienced and if I think it is worth it for the average skier. Now let's get on with the list. Starting with number 5, we have Loveland. Now a quick disclaimer, I have never skied here, so I don't have an accurate opinion on this resort. I ran out of ski resorts that I have been to rank on this list, so I decided to just throw Loveland in. A lot of people decide to ski at Loveland due to the convenience, which is totally understandable. You don't have to deal with the metering at the Johnson Tunnel, so that can easily save you an hour on the commute home. And it is the first ski resort you see on the I-70 drive, so it's easy to just get off there and settle. Other than the convenience, Loveland just doesn't really have much to offer. They aren't a part of either the Icon or Epic passes, so if you want to ski Loveland, you have to pay separately for its own pass. The lifts at Loveland are slow as shit. My handicapped grandmother could probably climb to the top of Mount Everest and back, including the flight there and back, before I could even take one lift ride at Loveland. Now that might be just a slight hyperbole, but you get the point. And don't even get me started on the parking. Parking is very limited once it fills up. They basically just turn you away, forcing you to have to go to another ski resort anyway. Loveland is only worth it if the drive to the other side of the Continental Divide pains you that much you have to settle for this mediocrity. Now moving on to number 4, we have Keystone. Keystone is a ski resort that has a lot of potential, but the execution of it has fallen completely flat. First off, there is hardly any expert terrain. The only expert terrain they do have is the Windows Bowl, which not only requires a hike, but faces straight south. So 9 times out of 10, it is going to be crusty. So Keystone is not a very great option for expert skiers. For intermediate skiers, half of the blue runs are always icy, such as Mozart, River Run. So if you don't want to be like luggage at DIA, I stay far away from the blues at Keystone. For beginner skiers, you got Schoolmarm, which is where every intermediate and advanced run all begins on Durham Mountain. Imagine a run being advertised as a family run, and then you have a bunch of hillbilly snowboarders bombing down it so that they can get to their run and not be stuck on a traverse. Maybe Keystone should just take the path of Alta and Deer Valley and just ban snowboarding altogether. Did they ever think that through? A ski resort for families, but they allow snowboarding, which is not really a sport designed for families, but ironically, a sport that splits apart families. Keystone is an okay ski resort if you are just looking for advanced terrain and nothing else, otherwise I'd look elsewhere. Now moving on to the third worst ski resort in Colorado, we have Winter Park. It honestly saddens me to put this one on this list, but unfortunately its constant overcrowding has basically ruined the resort. The first problem with Winter Park is parking. You'd think because it is called Winter Park, there would be plenty of winter parking. But ironically, that is not the case. If you get there after 9 a.m., best of luck to ya. You either are stuck doing street parking, which is subjected to long walks or having to take the shuttle to the mountain, or you're just out of luck if even that isn't available. Now, if you're an early bird and you get the worm, you can get very convenient parking right by the super gauge lift, which is what I usually get. Now we discussed parking, the next most annoying thing is the lines. Lines everywhere at Winter Park. I feel like all I ever do at Winter Park is either wait in line or have to ride a very slow lift like Challenger or Iron Horse. Well, I guess you could eat up some PTO or take an unpaid day off and go during the week. And what problems do you run into then? Well, now half of the lifts are closed or have mechanical issues. Yup, if it is not parking, if it is not lines, there's always something, right? The lodges are always crowded. I often have to make laps around the lodge just to find a seat for one person, let alone a whole family. Now don't get me wrong, the terrain at Winter Park is very good, but unfortunately the crowds have ruined Winter Park for me. Winter Park simply does not have the infrastructure to keep up with the demand. And because of that, I cannot recommend skiing there. Now, moving on to the second worst ski resort in Colorado, we have Breckenridge, also known as Traversin Ridge. If street parking at Winter Park wasn't bad enough, at Breckenridge, either you have to pay up or park at an abandoned airport, where you have to take a bus to the gondola that will take you up to the mountain. Yep, you heard that one correctly. You're still not there after the bus ride. So you have to take 2 legs of transportation just to get from your car to the mountain. You hop on the gondola and then you have to ride it 3 stops because the first mid station is useless. The second one will drop you off at peak 7, which you don't want to do because you'll end up waiting 30 minutes to get onto Independent Superchair. Now you're finally on the mountain, and what next? Lines. There are long lines at the base, long lines at the mid-mountain lifts. There is almost nowhere at Breck to escape the crowds. Not only do you have that, but a shitload of traversing. So if you're a snowboarder, you probably want to stay away from Traversin Ridge. Now for the real skiers that are looking for steeps, well, unfortunately you have to ride the Horseshoe Bowl T-Bar, which often has painfully long lines. Once you take that, you head over to Kensho or Imperio. Given that they aren't closed due to wind or avalanche mitigation, which they are more often than not, then, after riding those lifts in 50-mile-per-hour winds, you then have a 20-minute hike to get to the top. You would think after that whole journey, it would all pay off at the end. Nope, not really. The steeps are very short-lasting, and then you have to go back and do it all again. Not to mention Breckenridge is an east-facing mountain, so when powder days are few and far between, resiliency is not the greatest here. The only group of people who would have a good time at Breckenridge are beginners who spend an arm and a leg on ski lessons and get to skip the lines. Other than that, I really can't recommend this resort to anyone else. Now, moving on to the worst ski resort in Colorado, we have, drumroll, it is Eldora. Unless you live near the Boulder area, Eldora is not worth the drive. You only get 3 viable lifts, and 2 of them are old fixed grip Doppelmayrs. And to anyone who is familiar with this channel, you know the expression Doppelmayr, Droppelmayr. The one detachable lift they do have there, a detachable 6-pack, has these really gay triangle footrests, which are fucking horrible for snowboarders. So if you ride that lift and you have snowboarders as your seatmates, do them a favor and don't lower the damn bar. I don't care how small your kid is, they will be fine. And if they do fall, just remember, the snow is soft. With all jokes aside, I just found Eldora to be so boring. There just isn't a lot to do there. I remember when I went there, I didn't even get first chair. I think I arrived at least 30 minutes after they dropped the ropes. I had a long lunch at the base, and then I headed home at around 1:30. Yeah, that is how bad it is when I literally had to call it a day early for reasons other than avoiding traffic. Well, those are my objective top 5 worst Colorado ski resorts. Let me know down below what you think of my picks. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.